Across the world, more than 1 billion people are under some form of lockdown condition due to coronavirus. In some places, they're quite strict measures with things like curfews, but other places have taken a different approach where places like bars and restaurants are still open. Well, to shed some more light on that, we're joined by BBC Health reporter Anna Collinson. And Hannah, first of all, we're adhering to the 2-metre social distancing rule. But first question, why is it that different countries are adopting different conditions?
Well, it's a really good question. And ultimately, all countries are agreed that it's about flattening that curve. So when we see a spike in the curve, that means there's increased cases, increased infection, and that means more pressure on health services. When we see a flattening of a curve, that means less cases, and therefore health services are able to cope. Now, with towns and cities in lockdown, they're hoping that that will lead to a flattening of the curve. And it's estimated 4.5 billion people, so that's half of the population across the world, are living with some form of social distancing measures. Now, those measures can of course vary. So in countries like in India or in parts of Africa, they're very strict. Some people aren't even allowed to leave their homes. Whereas in countries like Sweden, they're introducing sort of measures rather than rules that people must follow. Businesses are allowed to be open, restaurants and bars are seen bustling full of people. So yeah, there's a real variation in what we're seeing.
When do you think we will actually eventually return to normal?
Well, that is the question that everyone wants answered. But right now, there isn't an answer. Some European countries like Germany are looking to slowly reduce the restrictions they have put in place. But the big fear for every government across the world is if you lift those restrictions too soon, that could lead to a second wave of cases. Now, when we look at a country like Japan, they were initially seen as a real success story when it came to curbing those Covid-19 cases. But what we are now seeing is a surge of cases in that country. More than 11,000 cases have now been reported. Japan had a real focus on protecting the economy. So they allowed shops to stay open, parks are full of people. That 2-metre social distancing rule isn't in place, but it means now that there's real pressure on the health system. So we may see a change in restrictions there in the coming weeks or months. Ultimately, for us to go back to normal, for us all to go back to normal, the scientists mostly agree that we need a vaccine.
Where do we stand on the vaccine?
Well, currently we don't have one. And in normal world, a vaccine could take years or even decades to be produced. But this isn't a normal world. We are not in normal times. So a group of more than 80 medical researchers from across the globe are working around the clock to try to produce a vaccine in a matter of months. And they've really got their work cut out for them. I'm just going to run through a few of the things that they've got to get through. They've got to create a vaccine that is not only safe, but that works. They've then got to work out a way that they can scale up that vaccine and get it produced on a mass scale. Regulators have to approve it. And then finally, just one little task of being able to inoculate the majority of the world's population. Now, scientists have sort of agreed that they expect there to be a vaccine in mid-2021. If that's achieved, that would be a huge scientific achievement. But yet we don't know if there's any guarantees that that vaccine will work.
Well, Anna, thank you very much for your insight and thank you for your time. If you found that video interesting, there's a lot more to watch and talk about on our channel. So for all updates on everything BBC My World, subscribe here.